It's White History Month. Gonna celebrate with my friends. It's White History Month. So be sure to tell everyone. There will always be different months to celebrate. But this one's gonna be White History. What's up, Norway? Her? Yeah, I figured I'd be doing some, I don't know. I guess this is a White History Month video. What's up, Yoda? Glad you're here. I was thinking I would do some stuff, but you know how it is. I guess tonight I wanted to touch on Ann Widdecombe and Enoch Powell. So I had a bunch of videos saved I thought we could just watch together and I would react to kind of, you know, in a lazy way. I did just have my shower and I washed my hair. So I don't really want to be on camera because, you know, I got my hair up in a bonnet. I ain't got no makeup on, wearing my nightgown and whatnot. I'm all comfy. So, but I do have some time to chill in here and watch these videos with you guys. And I thought this would be of interest to you guys. So let's see what we think about this stuff. I guess before I get into it, like some of you have probably already heard about the death of Ann Widdecombe. Jamie's in the chat right now. He can probably attest to how shocked I was and like disturbed I was to learn of her being killed. You know, obviously I'm an Anglophile. You guys watching me for a while know that about me. So I do take an interest in like British culture, government, pop culture, these kind of things. And I remember watching a season of Celebrity Big Brother that Anne was on. And she was great. You know, she was really just a really great house guest. And I thought like, it's just funny watching her interact with these different people and how they viewed her versus like how she was as a person. She's the kind of person that I think could win over a lot of people just by her charm and also her, you know, integrity. She didn't really seem to care what people thought. She just like kept it, you know, 100. So yeah, it's really sad to learn that she was murdered. I mean, it's so sick. And to think of someone like going out of their way to murder a 78-year-old woman, it's just like, I think it's disturbing to most people. And of course, you know, the situation politically in England is tense regardless. She was considered far right by some. I don't really think of her that way. I just think of her as a normal conservative that was, you know, doing what she could for her country. And she seemed to like be a person of strong moral integrity. You know, she tried to live her life, you know, according to her values as best she could. And you know how many people can even say they do that. So I don't know. I'm just very sad, I guess, to say. I know this isn't prepared or anything. I just wanted it to come from the heart. I was very sad, disturbed, and I am hoping that there will be some justice in this case because it is just so sickening and tragic. So anyway, I have a couple videos saved I thought we could watch and maybe reminisce about Anne and how great she was, you know, for this White History Month. I did call Jessie Lee Peterson's show, and I did recommend her as a white history figure. So if y'all heard that, then here's the opportunity to learn some more about her. Pardon me. Just keeping up with the chat. Hello to Modern Gentleman is here. Noe is here, of course. My love, Jamie Russell, is here. Anyone else? Well, if you're here, say hi. We're just going to keep it chill and watch these videos together. I hope it's of interest to you. I wanted to, again, look at Ann Widdecombe and Enoch Powell, somebody I haven't even really looked into very much, but I've heard of him in the past, but I've never listened to any of his talks or anything. But I know people have been bringing him up lately, so I could look at him too. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Modern Gentleman says we have literally the worst, I think he means air quality in the world from the wildfires. Oh, you had to run 5 miles today? Why'd you have to run? Well, I mean, that doesn't matter. I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, I've been through it here too. When the fires get really bad, the air becomes like so sick. But also don't think about it too much. You know, they say these things to just kind of try and make you paranoid and, you know, bring about sickness anyway. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the worst air quality in the world. They're just saying that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. All right, guys, let me get into this. Enough of me rambling. Pardon my boomer nature here as I bring things up. Okay, so here's my watch later. I've got some stuff saved for us. Let's get into this. This is Ann Widdecombe speaking at the Care Not Killing Alliance rally. So this was a rally against euthanasia. So I thought that would be interesting to watch and see her perspective on it. 13 years ago.
Let me say this. Initially, you're probably going to think that I've wandered into the wrong rally. I haven't, but if I were Tony Nicholson, I would want to go. That man has got no power of anything except to communicate by blinking. He is not terminally ill. It is not just going to happen in the course of nature. He is not in severe pain, but he was fit and healthy until the health blow that left him like that, and he wants to go, and so would I. Now, I don't say that lightly. I say it for this reason. We are in danger sometimes of dismissing too easily those who actually say, my life is not worth living. And if we dismiss it every time, we actually paint ourselves as insensitive. And although we talk about care, very often what people think they're hearing from us is that we don't actually care. Now, I haven't walked into the wrong rally for this reason. Hard cases make very, very bad law. I fully understand where Tony Nicholson is coming from. I understand where his family is coming from. Yes, he has got other options. Nobody in this country can be compelled to take food and fluids, but refusing them is a long, slow, and painful death, and he wants a quicker one. Yes, doubtless a public subscription could be got up, and he could make the very difficult journey to Dignitas, but he says, I want it here. And we've got to at least concede that we understand where he's coming from. And if you have any doubts about it, just lie down flat and don't move anything except your eyes. And see how long you can keep it up. See how long you can keep it up. And yes, of course, there are magnificent examples of people who've overcome all of that. There's Stephen Hawking, there's the Whitbread Prize winner, Christy Nolan. But not everybody, and particularly those who have been normally fit and active, can face decades ahead of that sort of existence. So, okay, let's make it clear that we understand and that we're not trying to inflict our values on people who are suffering what would be unimaginable to most of us. So why is it, if we do understand that, that nevertheless we resist as completely as we do any change in the law? It is straightforwardly that no law which allows people to depart of their own volition with assistance, that no law which allows that can possibly be contained. And that is the big danger. Now, David quoted to you, because I was here for this bit, the requirement that is proposed under any new law to have the signature of 2 doctors saying whatever might be specified, that you're terminally ill, that you're in great pain, that you are mentally competent, whatever it may be. And people will quote that back and say, there will be sufficient safeguards. Oh, yeah. When the 1967 Abortion Act was brought in, Parliament was told this won't lead to abortion on demand. The law is very clear. You've got to have the signature of 2 doctors. There's got to be a greater danger from carrying on the pregnancy than in having it terminated. Oh no, all the provisions are there. 7 million unborn children later, having been aborted, that is pretty hollow. Now that is how you cannot build safeguards into law to make sure that they are never abused. And it wouldn't be very long. In fact, I don't think it would be 5 minutes before whatever law was brought in would be pushed. Let's take an obvious case. I think anybody bringing in such a law would insist on mental competence. You must know what you're doing. So, we have 2 people side by side in a hospital, in a hospice, whatever you like to imagine them. They're side by side in adjacent beds. One is mentally competent. The other is not. Both are terminally and very, very painfully ill. One can say, I want to go. The other one can't. How long do you suppose you could maintain that distinction? The pressure to let the poor suffering mortal who couldn't actually claim mental competence also to go would be enormous. And if you did that, you would have jumped folks from voluntary to involuntary euthanasia in one single stroke. And then, of course, it's got to be on the specific request of the individual. Can't be on the request of another individual. But what happens if the specific individual can't actually consent at the time, but has in the past indicated to family that this is what they would like? You try preserving the distinction between those who are still compos mentis enough to say, I want to go, and the person in a coma who has said.
What did the British imperialists do to you, base liberal? What are you talking about? You can't take anymore? It's gonna be okay. What are they doing to you?
Allegedly at some stage he wants to go, but nobody can actually prove it. How long do you think you would sustain a requirement? It must be the request of the person. And then, of course, people can request it for all the wrong reasons. Look at Dignitas in Switzerland. The people who go there aren't all painfully and terminally ill. Yeah, most of them are.
I think that might be true about them as a race, the English. They do that well, but I mean, it doesn't seem that they've been doing it well. And I don't think things have been very good since they stopped doing it. I don't know. Interesting though, interesting comments. But they're talking about Greeks in here. What do y'all think about what Ann is saying? I think she's got some really good points about what she's saying here. I know. Yeah, I know. I mean, a little bit. If you've ever had a full English, like a little tiny side of beans with your like plate, it's kind of good. Yeah. I think what she's saying is pretty interesting here, and I agree with her. Like, the thing is, like, it's so hard to know where the like line is drawn, and I don't think we can ethically do it. But anyway, I'm gonna let her continue because I love Anne and I want her back. And this is all we have left of her, is these snippets of her. So let's continue.
Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't even ill. Some of them are depressed. Some of them simply want to go with the person who is already dying. Dignitas doesn't actually look after life. It is an instrument for death. And that's what any change in the law would bring, pushing at the boundaries of the law. So you have two people appearing on television and one says...
Stop it. Oh my God. We will miss stiff upper lip Maggie Thatchers like this when our new mud people overlords completely take over. Oh my God. Yes, rest in peace.
I'm in huge pain. I've got no hope. I want to go. And the other says, I'm in huge pain. I have got hope, but I still want to go. And you say no to the second one. For how long? Until you get another campaign from people saying, we know when our lives are worth living. Now, actually, people do know, by and large, when their lives are no longer worth living. Sometimes they decide that prematurely, but sometimes they decide it quite rationally. And that's why I said right at the beginning, we must show that we understand that. But you can imagine an elderly person, incontinent, not yet demented, but pretty hopeless, can't do very much. And she thinks, it could even be he thinks, I'm a burden to those around me. I want to go. Yes, doctor, I'm saying it. I'm mentally competent. I know exactly what I'm doing. I want to go. Undeniably, that person deciding it. Undeniably mentally competent. Undeniably going to go anyway sometime, because we all do. You can't preserve the rigidity of safeguards in law. And that is why, not because I deny, and I have never denied, that there is a very small minority of people for whom life has genuinely become unbearable, and it's never going to get any better. I do understand that. But I also understand from long experience that you can never devise a law the safeguards of which are absolutely unbreachable. Holland shows that. Oregon shows that. Dignitas shows that. It wouldn't be any different here. And so I think that we should always, and I'm delighted that we've got an atheist leading the charge, because very often people portray it. I was on a radio program recently, and the introduction was, Do you think people should have control over their own exit? Or do you believe so strongly in God that that is wrong? And I did say, look, I do believe strongly in God, but actually there are plenty of people who don't, who take my line on this. And we don't hear enough of them, so lots more, please. And that is another thing. When you're approaching MPs, when you're campaigning, don't always make a great thing of going along as a church group. Now, that's not because I want people to disown their faith. I certainly don't. But I do want MPs to understand that this argument is not just the prerogative of those who are motivated by faith. It is also the argument of those who are motivated by nothing more than wanting to protect some of the most vulnerable over future generations, because you might control it for 12 months or so. So I think it is very important, when you go to see your MP, make sure that the argument you present always begins with, I do understand that some people genuinely believe their lives aren't worth living, and I respect that. Not to know they've got it wrong, even if you think they have, doesn't matter. And I respect that. But it's crucial that we do that. It's crucial that we don't always mount our opposition on the basis of our faith. As I say, I'm not saying deny it, but don't necessarily always push that to the fore, because otherwise what you will find is that this will be presented to the nation as an argument between self-determination and the church. That's how it will be presented.
What's up, No Diggity? I'm hoping we'll learn something tonight. We're starting by honoring Ann Widdecombe. Wanted to respond to this. Margaret Thatcher defended the rights of British nationals living in the Falklands to maintain their land and their British identity and not be taken in by Argentina, my bad. Yes, I haven't seen that one in a while. Okay, let's continue. What's up, Zealots Den? Happy White History Month. All right, let's keep going. Hey, you'll like this, Zealots Den. Ann Widdecombe was a Catholic. She converted to Catholicism because of how libtarded the Anglican Church got. So let's go.
So we don't need that to gain ground. We need to be very careful to say every single time, this isn't just a matter of religion. Do go to see your MP. Please don't all go at once. Wastes the opportunity. Divide up. If you're confident enough to go on your own, let 6 of you go on your own, week after week, until he's sick of hearing about it. If you're not quite confident to go on your own, divide yourselves into 2 and go up onto the ark, 2 by 2. Over weeks and weeks and weeks until he's sick of it. When you write, don't write a standard letter, because all that needs is a standard reply, and these days you just press a button on a computer. No. Write individual letters with individual arguments, demanding responses to individual points. These things all have a tremendous impact. And yes, do sign e-petitions, because whereas if it's an ordinary petition, MPs don't take any notice. Because we all know that you could stand outside Sainsbury's on a Saturday morning with a petition in your hand that said, Eskimos need a bit more heat, and people would sign. So MPs don't take any notice, but an e-petition is different. You've actually got to go into the site, you've got to register, you've got to go through the procedures. You mean it. If you sign an e-petition, it means you want to sign it. So do that. There are loads of ways of communicating with your MP, but please, however heretical it may sound, always acknowledge some people want to go, and in their position, probably we would. Don't change the law on their behalf.
Shout out to Zealot Zen, a member for 6 whole months.
Nice.
Thank you for 6 months of support.
He's Catholic.
And he's Catholic.
And he's
He's a triple threat. He's a member, he's a Catholic, and he's a Yankee. Yeah.
we saw last night.
You've never heard of Ann Widdecombe before? Well, she was a British MP. She served under the John Major government. She's also involved in like Reform UK and the Brexit Party, and she was also on a number of like reality celebrity TV shows like Celebrity Big Brother and Strictly Come Dancing. So she's pretty famous.
She likes unborn babies too.
Yeah, she does. But anyway, yeah, she was horrifically murdered last week. 78-year-old woman just targeted in a political assassination. They say we're not supposed to speculate, or the British police asked us not to, but give me a break. The suspect drove for like, how many hours? Like 6 hours, 3 hours down to her house, then 3 hours back. Yeah.
I know we're saved by grace and all, but I have a feeling that the person who murdered her is not going to heaven.
Yeah, babe?
Yeah. Shut up.
Well, hopefully the person that's a suspect is the one that, was responsible. It's horrific. Send Jaru our peace from the den.
Thanks.
Well, yeah. I know he misses you guys in the den. Who is the suspect? No, it's a white British national, of course.
Is it?
Yeah. Possibly a mentally unstable left-wing nut job, but,
We can say the race because it's a white guy.
Oh, right, yeah. We learned about, speaking of white history, Saint Maria Goretti, this young lady that was a saint. She was basically, this guy propositioned her, and she told him no, she didn't want to sin, and he killed her. On her, she stabbed her and she like died in hospital, but she like forgave him, on her deathbed. And later on, her killer he had a conversion, and he actually testified on behalf of her sainthood. So really sad though. She was a young lady. Yeah, it was horrible. I know there were no dry eyes in the den that day. Jeez. Okay, let's continue. So that was the first video of Ann Widdecombe I had saved. Just let it play out and then it'll load the next one.
It's a great honor to speak on behalf of the largest single party in this place. And may I say that if I needed any convincing at all, that the best thing for Britain is to leave here as soon as possible. It was the way that those elections were conducted yesterday. Because if that is this place's idea of democracy, then that is a serious betrayal of every country that is represented here. Because it is not democratic at all. And that is just one of many reasons why Britain is right to be leaving this place, hopefully on Halloween. And it is right because there is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. I represent the southwest of the United Kingdom.
Piano, facciamo
And I
concludere.
found on my
Come to a conclusion, please.
first day that this place has decided, at least this place hasn't, the powers that be have decided to actually increase the size of fishermen's meshes, thereby reducing their income by 40%. That's what you do here. That's why we're going.
Grazie,
News
concluda.
how long, wir gehen, we're off.
The supreme
that.
function of statesmanship is
All
to
right, so
provide.
yeah, we're gonna listen to Enoch Powell, but let's give a moment to say, yeah, Anne, what a powerful lady, huh? What a voice
Strong
for
woman.
truth.
What a strong.
What a
independent-
strong, independent woman. Seriously though, God, I remember when Brexit happened, how many people lost their damn minds. It was so crazy. But like what she's talking about there, the EU is evil. Like it's incredibly evil. They bully these countries. They ruin their economies. It's a terrible thing to be involved in. Nobody except for like maybe the more major countries have benefited really from it, but they suck like the wealth out of countries. Anyway, I mean the fishing net thing that she mentioned there, that's ridiculous. Like, ugh. Anyway, 690 wasn't engaged. I love you guys. I did love the way people reacted to listening to her. And Nigel Farage just cracking up during the whole thing. So we had a request for Stephen Miller, one of my top 5 favorite Jews. Stephen Miller. We might get to it if I have energy at the end of all this. I'm not familiar with his recent speech, but we'll see. Oh no, we have another request. The clip of Bill Maher and Sharon Osbourne talking about how London has changed. Sharon reminisces about the tea shops and Union Jacks of her childhood, but now it's all Muslims. Based. Was the EU modeled after the Nazi economy, Desu? Terry, was not the EU modeled after the Nazi economy, Desu? You know, I don't know enough about it, but it does seem pretty fascist. You know, I'd have to look more into it though, to look at that and do comparisons. I am ignorant about many things, and this would be one of them. So yeah, Enoch Powell's famous Rivers of Blood speech. Let's listen and see what we think, guys. White History Month. Let's go. Oh, diversity is good. Yeah, but there is no diversity anymore. It's just monoculture. That's the problem. It's not diversity. It's the same crap everywhere. Everyone has to have the same meaningless culture. There is no diversity. Yeah. Desu. I mean, it's like Japanese, right? Kawaii desu. Yeah. They know it sucks, but their liberal brainwashing kicks in. I mean, I think diversity is a great thing. Like, I like the diversity of different nations, and I think that nations should be allowed to preserve their unique cultures and should not have their cultures totally, like, subsumed by foreigners. But anyway, let's go on.
Provide against preventable evils. In seeking to do so, it encounters obstacles which are deeply rooted in human nature. One is that by the very order of things, such evils are not demonstrable until they have occurred. At each stage in their onset, there is room for doubt and for dispute whether they be real or imaginary. By the same token, they attract little attention in comparison with current troubles which are both indisputable and pressing. Whence the besetting temptation of all politics to concern itself with the immediate present at the expense of the future. Above all, people are disposed to mistake predicting troubles for causing troubles, and even for desiring troubles. If only, they love to think, if only people wouldn't talk about it, it probably wouldn't happen. Perhaps this habit goes back to the primitive belief that the word and the thing, the name and the object, are identical. At all events, the discussion of future, grave, but with effort now, avoidable evils is the most unpopular and at the same time the most necessary occupation for the politician. Those who knowingly shirk it deserve and not infrequently receive the curses of those who come after. A week or two ago, I fell into conversation with a constituent, a middle-aged, quite ordinary working man employed in one of our nationalized industries. After a sentence or two about the weather, he suddenly said, "If I had the money to go, I wouldn't stay in this country." I made some deprecatory reply to the effect that even this government wouldn't last forever, but he took no notice and continued. "I have 3 children, all of them been through grammar school, and 2 of them married now with family. I shan't be satisfied till I've seen them settled overseas. In this country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man. I can already hear the chorus of execration. How dare I say such a horrible thing? How dare I stir up trouble and inflame feelings by repeating such a conversation? The answer is that I do not have the right not to do so. Here is a decent, ordinary fellow Englishman who in broad daylight, in my own town, says to me, his Member of Parliament, that his country will not be worth living in for his children. I simply do not have the right to shrug my shoulders and think about something else. What he is saying, thousands and hundreds of thousands are saying and thinking. Not throughout Great Britain, perhaps, but in the areas that are already undergoing the total transformation to which there is no parallel in 1,000 years of English history. In 15 or 20 years, on present trends, there will be in this country 3.5 million Commonwealth immigrants and their descendants. That is not my figure. That is the official figure given to Parliament by the spokesman of the Registrar General's office. There is no comparable official figure for the year 2000, but it must be in the region of 5 to 7 million, approximately 1/10 of the whole population and approaching that of Greater London. Of course, it will not be evenly distributed from Margate to Aberystwyth and from Penzance to Aberdeen. Whole areas, towns and parts of towns across England will be occupied by sections of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population. As time goes on, the proportion of this total who are immigrant descendants, those born in England who arrived here by exactly the same route as the rest of us, will rapidly increase. Already by 1985, the native-born would constitute the majority. It is this fact which creates the extreme urgency of action now, of just that kind of action which is hardest for politicians to take. Action where the difficulties lie in the present, but the evils to be prevented or minimized lie several parliaments ahead. The natural and rational first question with a nation confronted by such a prospect is to ask, how can its dimensions be reduced? Granted it be not wholly preventable, can it be limited, bearing in mind that numbers are of the essence? The significance and consequence of an alien element introduced into a country or population are profoundly different according to whether that element is 1% or 10%. The answers to the simple and rational question are equally simple and rational. By stopping or virtually stopping further inflow and by promoting the maximum outflow. Both answers are part of the official policy of the Conservative Party. It almost passes belief that at this moment 20 or 30 additional immigrant children are arriving from overseas in Wolverhampton alone every week. And that means 15 or 20 additional families a decade or two hence. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. We must be mad, literally mad, as a nation, to be permitting the annual inflow of some 50,000 dependents, who are, for the most part, the material of the future growth of the immigrant-descended population. It is like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre. So insane are we, that we actually permit unmarried persons to immigrate for the purpose of founding a family, with spouses and fiancés whom they have never seen. Let no one suppose that the flow of dependents will automatically tail off. On the contrary, even at the present admission rate of only 5,000 a year by voucher, there is sufficient for a further 325,000 dependents per annum ad infinitum, without taking into account the huge reservoir of existing relations in this country. And I am making no allowance at all for fraudulent entry. In these circumstances, nothing will suffice but that the total inflow for settlement should be reduced at once to negligible proportions, and that the necessary legislative and administrative measures be taken without delay. I stress the words, for settlement. This has nothing to do with the entry of Commonwealth citizens, any more than of aliens, into this country.
I think it's interesting that he's talking about Commonwealth immigrants, so people who lived in like the British colonies that were immigrating. But I mean, England now has people like coming there from all over the place, places that didn't have anything to do with their like colonization. So, I mean, it's pretty interesting to consider what has happened hence. Since I've paused it, I want to, just to keep up with the chat, thank you guys for being here, watching. Please hit like if you haven't already. I want to shout out the Zealots Den, who's been so kind to gift a membership to someone out there. I don't know who's gotten it, but we'll find out eventually. He also was generous and donated to the channel, saying that I get chat moderator of the year. Because I have been swift many a time to get the trolls that beset the Zealots Den. Well, to shut them up. So thank you. Appreciate your support. Oh, England, my lion heart. That's like that Kate Bush song, right? And I'll read this. If you read Hitler's unpublished second book, I don't know if I'm going to get around to that. Maybe next White History Month. He argues, pardon me, that Europe had to compete with the United States by uniting in a competitive economic bloc. And then I heard somewhere that the German economy and capitalists basically went on to play a big part in the EU. Well, yeah, it is very German. I would say that, you know, Germany does seem to do better than a lot of the other nations involved in the EU. If I am not mistaken, I think eventually Hitler turned against the German capitalists because they were kind of anti-war. Thank you for your comments. Very interesting stuff to consider here. What do you all think of this speech, huh? Mary is my mother's name. Quite contrary is how her garden grows. Good to see you, J-Do. This is interesting. So this guy was very controversial. Probably still is, but we're not afraid of controversy at the Terri Strange channel. We welcome it. So let's continue.
For the purposes of study or of improving their qualifications, like, for instance, the Commonwealth doctors who, to the advantage of their own countries, have enabled our hospital service to be expanded faster than would otherwise have been possible. These are not, and never have been, immigrants. I return to re-emigration. If all immigration ended tomorrow, the rate of growth of the immigrant and immigrant-descended population would be substantially reduced. But the prospective size of this element in the population would still leave the basic character of the national danger unaffected. This can only be tackled while a considerable proportion of the total still comprises persons who entered this country during the last 10 years or so. Hence the urgency of implementing now the second element of the Conservative Party's policy, the encouragement of re-emigration. Nobody can make an estimate of the numbers which, with generous grants and assistance, would choose either to return to their countries of origin or to go to other countries anxious to receive the manpower and the skills they represent. Nobody knows, because no such policy has yet been attempted. I can only say that even at present, immigrants in my own constituency from time to time come to me asking if I can find them assistance to return home. If such a policy were adopted and pursued with the determination which the gravity of the alternative justifies, the resultant outflow could appreciably alter the prospects for the future. It can be no part of any policy that existing family should be kept divided. But there are two directions in which families can be reunited. And if our former and present immigration laws have brought about the division of families, albeit voluntary or semi-voluntary, we ought to be prepared to arrange for them to be reunited in their countries of origin. In short, suspension of immigration and encouragement of re-emigration hang together, logically and humanly, as two aspects of the same approach. The third element of the Conservative Party's policy is that all who are in this country as citizens should be equal before the law, and that there shall be no discrimination or difference made between them by public authority. As Mr. Heath has put it, we will have no first-class citizens and second-class citizens. This does not mean that the immigrant and his descendants should be elevated into a privileged or special class, or that the citizen should be denied his right to discriminate in the management of his own affairs between one fellow citizen and another, or that he should be subjected to inquisition as to his reasons and motives for behaving in one lawful manner rather than another. There could be no grosser misconception of the realities than is entertained by those who vociferously demand legislation, as they call it, against discrimination, whether they be leader writers of the same kidney and sometimes on the same newspapers, which year after year in the 1930s tried to blind this country to the rising peril which confronted it, or archbishops who live in palaces, faring delicately with the bedclothes pulled right over their heads. They have got it exactly and diametrically wrong. The discrimination and the deprivation, the sense of alarm and resentment lies not with the immigrant population, but with those among whom they have come and are still coming. This is why to enact legislation of the kind before part pickup, this is why to enact legislation of the kind before Parliament at this moment is to risk throwing a match onto the gunpowder. The kindest thing that can be said about those who propose and support it is they know not what they do. Nothing is more misleading than comparison between the Commonwealth immigrant in Britain and the American Negro. The Negro population of the United States, which was already in existence before the United States became a nation, started literally as slaves and were later given the franchise and other rights of citizenship, to the exercise of which they have only gradually and still incompletely come. The Commonwealth immigrant came to Britain as a full citizen, to a country which knows no discrimination between one citizen and another, and he entered instantly into the possession of the rights of every citizen, from the vote to free treatment under the National Health Service. Whatever drawbacks attended the immigrants, and they were drawbacks which did not and do not make admission into Britain by hook or by crook appear less than desirable, arose not from the law, or from public policy, or from administration, but from those personal circumstances and accidents which cause, and always will cause, the fortunes and experience of one man to be different from another's. But while to the immigrant, entry to this country was admission to privileges and opportunities eagerly sought, the impact upon the existing population was very different. For reasons which they could not comprehend, and in pursuance of a decision by default, on which they were never consulted, they found themselves made strangers in their own country. They found their wives unable to obtain hospital beds in childbirth, their children unable to obtain school places, their homes and neighborhoods changed beyond recognition, their plans and prospects for the future defeated. At work, they found that employers hesitated to apply to the immigrant worker the standards of discipline and competence required of the native-born worker. They began to hear, as time went by, more and more voices which told them that they were now the unwanted. On top of this, they now learn that a one-way privilege is to be established by Act of Parliament, a law which cannot and is not intended to operate to protect them or redress their grievances, is to be enacted to give the stranger, the disgruntled, and the agent provocateur the power to pillory them for their private actions. In the hundreds upon hundreds of letters I received when I last spoke on this subject 2 or 3 months ago, there was one striking feature which was largely new and which I find ominous. All members of Parliament are used to the typical anonymous correspondent, but what surprised and alarmed me was the high proportion of ordinary, decent, sensible people writing a rational and often well-educated letter, who believed that they had to omit their address because it was dangerous to have committed themselves to paper to a member of Parliament agreeing with the views I had expressed, and that they would risk either penalties or reprisals if they were known to have done so. The sense of being a persecuted minority, which is growing among ordinary English people in the areas of the country which are affected, is something that those without direct experience can hardly imagine. I am going to allow just one of those hundreds of people to speak for me. She did give her name and address, which I have detached from the letter which I am about to read. She was writing from Northumberland about something which is happening at this moment in my own constituency. 8 years ago, in a respectable street in Wolverhampton, a house was sold to a Negro. Now only one white, a woman old-age pensioner, lives there. This is her story. She lost her husband and both her sons in the war, so she turned her 7-roomed house, her only asset, into a boarding house. She worked hard and did well, paid off her mortgage, and began to put something by for her old age. Then the immigrants moved in. With growing fear, she saw one house after another taken over. the quiet streets became a place of noise and confusion. Regretfully, her white tenants moved out. The day after the last one left, she was awakened at 7 a.m. by two Negroes who wanted to use her phone to contact their employer. When she refused, as she would have refused any stranger at such an hour, she was abused and feared she would have been attacked but for the chain on her door. Immigrant families have tried to rent rooms in her house, but she always refused. Her little store of money went, and after paying her rates, she had less than £2 per week. She went to apply for a rate reduction and was seen by a young girl who, on hearing she had a 7-roomed house, suggested she should let part of it. When she said the only people she could get were Negroes, the girl said, "Racial prejudice won't get you anywhere in this country." So she went home. The telephone is her lifeline. Her family pay the bill and help her out as best they can. Immigrants have offered to buy her house at a price which the prospective landlord would be able to recover from his tenants in weeks, or at most in a few months. She is becoming afraid to go out. Windows are broken. She finds excreta pushed through her letterbox. When she goes to the shops, she is followed by children, charming, wide-grinning pickaninnies. They cannot speak English, but one word they know. Racialist, they chant. When the new race relations bill is passed, this woman is convinced she will go to prison. And is she so wrong? I begin to wonder. The other dangerous delusion from which those who are willfully or otherwise blind to reality suffer is summed up in the word integration. To be integrated into a population means to become, for all practical purposes, indistinguishable from its other members. Now, at all times, where there are marked physical differences, especially of colour, integration is difficult, though over a period not impossible. There are among the Commonwealth immigrants who have come to live here in the last 15 years or so many thousands whose wish and purpose is to be integrated and whose every thought and endeavour is bent in that direction. But to imagine that such a thing enters the heads of a great and growing majority of immigrants and their descendants is a ludicrous misconception, and a dangerous one to boot. We are on the verge here of a change. Hitherto, it has been force of circumstance and of background which has rendered the very idea of integration inaccessible to the greater part of the immigrant population, that they never conceived or intended such a thing, and that their numbers and physical concentration meant the pressures towards integration, which normally bear upon any small minority, did not operate. Now we are seeing the growth of positive forces acting against integration, of vested interests in the preservation and sharpening of racial and religious differences, with a view to the exercise of actual domination, first over fellow immigrants, and then over the rest of the population. The cloud no bigger than a man's hand that can so rapidly overcast the sky has been visible recently in Wolverhampton, and has shown signs of spreading quickly. The words I am about to use, verbatim, as they appeared in the local press on 17th of February, are not mine, but those of a Labour Member of Parliament who is a minister in the present government. The Sikh community's campaign to maintain customs inappropriate in Britain is much to be regretted. Working in Britain, particularly in the public services, they should be prepared to accept the terms and conditions of their employment. To claim special communal rights, or should one say rights, leads to a dangerous fragmentation within society. This communalism is a canker. Whether practiced by one colour or another, it is to be strongly condemned. All credit to John Stonehouse for having had the insight to perceive that, and the courage to say it. For these dangerous and divisive elements, the legislation proposed in the Race Relations Bill is the very pabulum they need to flourish. Here is the means of showing that the immigrant communities can organize to consolidate their members, to agitate and campaign against their fellow citizens, and to overawe and dominate the rest with the legal weapons which the ignorant and the ill-informed have provided. As I look ahead, I am filled with foreboding, like the Roman. I seem to see the river Tiber foaming with much blood. That tragic and intractable phenomenon, which we watch with horror on the other side of the Atlantic, but which is interwoven with the history and existence of the states itself, is coming upon us here by our own volition and our own neglect. Indeed, it has all but come. In numerical terms, it will be of American proportions long before the end of the century. Only resolute and urgent action will avert it even now. Whether there will be the public will to demand and obtain that action, I do not know. All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great betrayal.
New Litter Green, the patented cat box filler with natural chlorophyll, controls odor and absorbs like...
Hey. Okay. Well, that was definitely interesting. I hadn't expected to hear the term pickaninny. That was funny. Guess we'll get caught up with the chat. I don't know if this was a joke comment, but she said, or he said, or AI said, have you ever talked to the immigrants? They are very cool people. I don't find them violent at all like us. It depends on, I haven't talked to every type of immigrant. I think people from different areas tend to have different levels of violence. And when you're talking about like people who are in the country illegally, I do feel very strongly, just based on my observations through life, that when somebody is comfortable committing one crime, they tend to like not have a problem with committing others. So, and I don't know, just living where I live and seeing the rise in gang violence from like Venezuelans and Mexicans that are in gangs that come here and peddle drugs. Like, no. Is that every immigrant or even illegal immigrant? No, but a lot of them can go. A whole lot of them can go. And I just think, you know, it's the principle of the thing. Doesn't really matter. It's the principle of the thing. So I don't know. You know, and a lot of the crimes they commit, I mean, how many illegal aliens have committed crimes against United States citizens that it just, and then they don't get deported. They end up being paid for by the taxpayer in our jail systems. Like, you kill an American, then you get like, what, free food and board for the rest of your life? I don't know. I know people who are like legal immigrants who came into this country and worked hard to become citizens and to live here in a legal way, and they tend to be pretty nice people. But yeah, Cabot was a beta male indeed. But I wanted to show this because it had Enoch Powell on the Dick Cabot show, so I thought we could it seems foreigners love women of European descent. You know, that's another thing too. I don't know how much I want to get into that, but I have seen a lot of really bizarre like ads, and I'm staying off of X because I did find it was making me like racist. Not like, I don't know, maybe it's just making me too racially aware or like feel victimized as a white person. And I don't want to be in that kind of energy. So just like stay off of that and away from that. But I did see a lot of ads in different European countries where, they promote this foreigner with the native born female as a couple a lot. I even saw one where it was a German couple and they were a throuple. So a male German, a German lady, and then a migrant as part of their throuple. So bizarre. There's something wrong about it. Things happen naturally, it's one thing, but there seems to be this kind of promotion of that, and then the denigration of white men. And so many white women have been programmed to hate white men and think that they're the enemy and that they have to take a stand against the white man so the people of color won't come get them. It's all so dumb. Okay, wow. I know. I'm saying it tongue in cheek, though. I'm saying it tongue in cheek. I am just going to break into your house rather than ask to use the front door, and you're going to be okay with it. I know. And then my neighbors are going to team up and form groups and force this as well. And anybody if I call the cops and try to get some help, then my neighbors are going to come and form human blockades to try to stop the police from removing the people from my house. And then if somebody gets hurt in the altercation, then they're going to become a martyr for the cause. A truffle. I know. What's wrong with you? You've got all that space. I mean, if people want these people in our... This is the other thing, too. If you just look at the statistics, and I was even looking today, I saw some ridiculous story where there's one guy who's immigrated to the UK, for example, and he wants to bring 18 of his family members to live with him in the UK. And many of them are going to become wards of the state. So the state's going to pay for all their health care, going to provide housing for them, going to provide a universal basic income for them. And the average British taxpayer is going to foot the bill. I know. I concur. Well, and yeah, that's the other thing too. There's a very different set of values between a lot of these places, and people don't want to recognize that either. It's not anyway. So let's watch this little clip of Enoch Powell on the Dick Cavett show. Enoch Powell responds to being called a racist. Let's see what he says.
Like a sponge. I'm allowing a decent interval to pass so we can now talk. I guess the immigration issue was the thing, as you know, that changed your life and made your name probably better known throughout the world than it had been before that. And when you made a speech, as a result of which you were called a racist by many of your own papers and many in the States who reported it. And it's easy to see reading the speech why you could be called that. Do you understand why people call you a racist?
It is one of the modern terms of abuse. Mm-hmm. And the term of abuse is the more effective, the less defined it is. Then you can throw it at anybody and anything. Mm-hmm. But I find this word race very irrelevant in the British context. Indeed, it's rather a word which we've borrowed from America, because in the States, the term race simply means Negro or non-Negro. Now, that, of course, is the form in which this sort of conflict or potential conflict primarily presents itself in the United States. But that's a very different background, a very different origin from the problem which we have here. I wonder if you'd allow me a minute or two to sketch in the background here in Britain, because it is unique in the world, and one gets it wrong if one imports ideas from anywhere else. You've got to go back to the fact that alone of all the countries in the world, we never had a definition of ourselves. There was never such a thing as a United Kingdom citizen. Unlike the United States, which has its own citizenship, France, Germany, we never had that. We were British subjects. We were subjects of the king or the queen, as the case might be. Consequently, as the British dominions expanded, automatically, everybody was born in or belonged to any part of the British dominions. Hundreds of millions of human beings were all British subjects. And in the law of this country, there was never any distinction between one British subject and another. There was no way of labeling the British subject who, if I may use the word, belonged to this country. Now, this was had many advantages when Britain was the center of an empire. And if the numbers from the rest of the empire who availed themselves of this identification remained small, then no problem arose. But the rest of the empire had its own citizenships. An Englishman wasn't allowed to go and settle in India or Jamaica. On the contrary, they had their own very strict demarcations and definitions. And now, after the Second World War, there was a big technical revolution that took place, and that was air travel, which made the movement of masses of people from one continent to another possible on a scale which had never been contemplated before. As a result of that, there moved into the United Kingdom growing numbers of British subjects from the rest of the, well, it was by now the Commonwealth, it had ceased to be the empire, who had no other connection than that with this country, with the United Kingdom. Now, it wasn't that this was asked for. It wasn't that these people were brought in as labor, like the movement of labor on the continent. It happened because without a major change in our law, it couldn't be prevented. Indeed, it couldn't be seen. You see, we actually don't know how many came in, because if they're all British subjects, you only counted, well, you didn't count British subjects. And a Hong Kong Chinese, or a Pathan from the Northwest Frontier, or myself coming back from a weekend in Paris, we were all the same going through the port of entry or Heathrow Airport. Well, eventually reality breaks through. And in 1962, at last, the law was changed so as to make a difference between the British subjects who belong to this country and those who don't. But by the time that that had happened, I'm simplifying, so large a number had already settled here, plus the inflow in the years after 1962, for reasons which I won't enter into, they are complicated, that we now know that unless some drastic change happens, large parts of many of our cities will, by the beginning of the next century, be occupied by a population which has nothing in common with the people of this country. Now, I've defined the problem.
Yes. That all sounds reasonable. I think the...
It is reasonable, you know.
Oh. It also sounds reasonable. The thing is that I think in reading the speech, it's obvious that many of the examples that you chose to illustrate the problem were much more pungent, if you'll pardon the expression. I mean, you talked about a lady in a small town who had excrement shoved through her letterbox by black people.
Now, we must here have the context to that speech.
Yeah.
That speech was made 2-3 days before the Conservative opposition had decided to oppose a race relations bill. And the reason that we were going to oppose it was that it would do more harm than good. And it would do more harm than good because the danger to race relations, basically, was the fear of the indigenous population, of the growing numbers and growing influx of immigrants. And it was that fear which was the reason why that bill we believed, and all believed, would do more harm than good. That, as the member representing one of the places primarily affected, I set out to illustrate and to explain to parts of the country that had no knowledge of it in that speech. So that's the context of that speech. I was making that speech against a bill which the Conservative Party as a whole opposed. And I was saying, you know, it isn't really, the danger lies not so much in discrimination against the immigrant. It lies in the fear which increasing numbers inspire in the minds, and not surprisingly and not unnaturally, of the population here. That was the message.
But do you still have any question in your mind as to what in the speech caused such manifestations afterwards as if you want a nigger for a neighbor, vote Labor?
No. That phrase was used long before. It was never used in connection with my speech. That phrase dates back to the 1964 election, if not earlier. But of course, there was a terrific explosion of relief that at last somebody had drawn attention. Not we now know to the full dimensions, for I underestimated the numbers in that speech, but at any rate to what were then thought to be the full dimensions of the problem. And people who had watched year after year, particularly in the areas concerned, something happening which was altering their lives, but nobody apparently caring, nobody referring to it, nobody worrying about it.
Perhaps we can find.
But at least somebody's spoken about it. Now we can face it.
Wow. So that was Enoch Powell. What do you guys think? The Dick Van Dyke Show? No, Dick Cavett, not Dick Van Dyke. That's funny. Okay, let's see. Yeah, see, like even the whites don't like the other whites. There is a lot of aversion to the English. You've got like French ancestry. I definitely grew up, my dad kind of hated English people. He didn't really, but it was just like an instinctual thing, I think, that he felt was correct. I don't know. Obviously, like there were multiple times where we met English people and took them into our home and befriended them. I remember, I don't know how old I was, probably 8 or 9. And I had spent like a week at my aunt and uncle's house with my cousins one summer, and we were coming back from, so my aunt and uncle, they lived like in this little town called Healy, Alaska, which was probably 5 or 6 hours away from Anchorage. So we picked up these hitchhikers that were heading towards Anchorage, and they were this couple from York, England. Caroline and Terry actually were their names. And yeah, his name was my name too. So we picked them up, and they basically drove all the way back to Anchorage with us, and they ended up like camping in our yard that night. Because if we got in kind of, I don't know, late, and then we made like dinner for them. We made them pizza, and it was really nice. And we kept correspondence up with them pretty much for, well, the rest of my father's life. I always would get cards from them and that kind of thing at Christmas and such. You like the stream, Clay? I thought you might like it. You find them beta? I'm bringing up old shit. Well, I mean, it's White History Month. It's not White Modern Month. The world was a mess then. I don't know. I guess the world's always been a mess. My old boss was a happy Brit American. You know, the Brit Americans are very happy people, aren't they? Because, you know, they've lived in England and now they live in America. So they're just happy people. Hey, dystopian deep dives. You don't mind? I don't mind them either. I actually, well, like I said, I'm an Anglophile at the beginning. Jamie is not British. Jamie is American and he's of German ancestry. Yeah, Brits over Haitians, definitely. And the Wayback Machine. Y'all, it's White History Month. I'm going to celebrate with my friends. Brit Americans love our country. They do. Jamie is Guy Fawkes. You think he looks like Guy Fawkes? Guy Fawkes, you know that those like weird masks that were in that movie V for Vendetta. So Guy Fawkes was a traitor basically in England. He tried to blow up Parliament, and now the English celebrate Guy Fawkes Day every November 5th by like setting off fireworks and wearing like the little masks. It's interesting.
I would do that.
Now he's Mark Twain. He's a real dude.
That was very nice.
Now you're saying he's mostly Jew and a little British. Hey, you're just making things up. Should we watch that speech by Stephen Miller that was brought up? Let me see if I can find it. That was a request. Stephen Miller. Let's see, speech today. Calls leftist violence a cancer. Oh, interesting. Is that the one you were talking about? Who was it that recommended it? Was that base liberal or was it M in the chat? I don't remember. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having a quiet day. I took a shower once I got off work, and now I'm just chilling in my Jimmy Jams. Hey, Nero. Oh, Marco Rubio made a decent speech. Steven Anderson has had a complete breakdown, and I put it up on my channel. Really? What happened, Claude? Oh, congratulations. You got a new job? Awesome. Hope it goes well for you, brother. Is Steve okay? Well, I guess no. He had a complete breakdown. Do you mean he like yelled at somebody while he was on stream, or do you mean like he's like in a hospital, like suffering from a breakdown? Are you just being like dramatic in your speech here? Oh yeah, I hope you get some work too. It's the one from today. M says yes, cue it up. Okay, so this was requested by our pal M here in the chat. So we're gonna pull up the Stephen Miller speech.
Here, real quick.
What's up, babe?
Dear Lord, please be with Stephen Anderson and his family and heal his problem. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, babe. I think Claude Balls is just being silly, though. I don't think he meant that he had a real breakdown. He probably just meant he acted crazy online, which who hasn't here? Anderson is calling for God to punish his brother and kids. He says it's time for God to support him or he'll give up the ministry. Huh. Interesting. Well, guys, this is
man with very bad theology, in my opinion.
Okay. Stephen Anderson's that like weird Baptist pastor that freaked out at Jesse, right? Like, can you get it updated on Conrad? Well, We saw Conrad yesterday. We had a little cookout. Dystopian Deep Dives joined us. We made weenies. Although, like, we had so many people come that we only had a weenie each, but there was lots of yummy chips and watermelon and stuff and whatnot. So yeah, Conrad.
There would be.
Hey, you know what? Conrad was like flirting with this girl, one of our neighbors, and she was like, I thought you were gonna get my number and stuff, and like she was being like real kind of easy. So I think he might have scored.
I checked in with him. He said no.
He didn't score.
No.
He couldn't seal that deal. Then she was like
I said,
putting
"Did
it
you
on
stay
a
over
plate.
here in this
She was
apartment?"
like putting
Oh.
herself on a plate for him.
Yeah. I seen her this morning.
And he
I
was
seen her
like,
this morning.
no, you know what? I think I'm going to go home and
it
cuddle
was-
with my cat.
It was funny because when I got coffee this morning before work, down
Yeah,
there, he was in there and he looked all like he was all like chipper,
Uh-huh.
you know, in his face he was like smiling and he was real talkative.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, he got laid. and he was like, so you stayed over there last night? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, okay.
He might not want to be into kissing and telling. But Dystopia Deep Dive says they were into each other.
He looked like somebody who got laid last night. You know what I mean? This morning.
Oh my God.
That's terrible.
What does that look like? I don't
Just
know.
happy. Like,
Just happy.
kid,
I think everyone just needs to take it easy with each other, and then Steven Anderson wouldn't lose it. Okay, let me get in this. Okay, Stephen Miller's speech. Okay.
Good morning, distinguished leaders and guests. It's good to see so many familiar faces.
They
Thank
did
you,
not
of course, to Secretary of State Rubio for organizing this conference and for leading this initiative.
Let's go, Stephen Miller, one of, I think, my top 5 favorite Jews. Go, Stephen Miller.
Here in the United States, we have taken the necessary and essential action of formally recognizing left-wing violence as a form of political terrorism that is a direct threat to our national security and the survival of our Republican form of government. President Trump issued a directive, in our parlance, it's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM, NSPM 7 to be exact, that directs for the first time in American history all of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to work together to disrupt, identify, defund, debank, arrest, and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country. It's very important to understand that left-wing political terrorism seeks as its ultimate end the overthrow of our system and form of government. And we've seen this has taken place many times in many places throughout the years, and Secretary Rubio has provided you many examples. Left-wing terrorism always ends in bloodshed, misery, and suffering. It only can travel in one direction. There's no point at which the left-wing terrorist is satisfied with his gains and ceases progressing. Inevitably, left to run its course, it always becomes a gulag. It always becomes the mass imprisonment of political enemies, the stripping of their rights and freedoms, inflicting immense pain, humiliation, suffering, in order to establish complete and total control. Control through psychological and physical and actual terror. And we have to understand that that is the scope and the extent of the threat that we face. And as Secretary Rubio also pointed out, this is an international network. Antifa, as an example, operates in dozens of countries all throughout the world. They share common networks of funding, organization, and information sharing. And so all of our intelligence agencies and law enforcement entities should be collaborating and coordinating and working together in order to root out these organizations. One of the hallmarks of left-wing violence and terrorism is its completely pretextual and disingenuous appeal to civil liberties in an effort to shield its own violence. This is the tactic that the left always uses to try to protect itself from facing criminal punishment. It is essential that we are wise enough and strong enough to understand that these appeals must fall on deaf ears. When the leftist, who does not believe in freedom, who does not believe in civil rights, who does not believe in any ordered notion of justice, protests that we are violating his rights, understand that he is lying to try to persuade people who are not closely following the political scene that some injustice has been perpetrated against him. We must stay the course and be completely unflinching in the pursuit of justice against these enemies of civilization. If the left is allowed to use the real or actual threat of violence to destabilize our institutions, then those institutions cannot and will not succeed. So here in the United States, for example, we saw in the recent past clear threats of violence against our Supreme Court to try to shape how they rule on upcoming decisions. The leftist does this with the full desire, intent, and understanding that the threat of violence against a public figure or their family is meant to cow them into behaving or acting or conducting themselves differently.
No, the sound went out at my
You
end.
had the combination of a violent left-wing
Okay.
organization threatening our nation's highest court and the federal government and the Department of Justice turning a blind eye to it. Those are the conditions in which this kind of violence can fester as a cancer and ultimately destroy a society. Nothing that we do works if the threat of violence and terror goes on unchecked. Our political systems don't work, our judicial systems don't work, our legal systems don't work, our jury trials don't work. And at the same time, we have to understand there's a real threat that those who are not themselves terrorists, but who support left-wing violence, will create the conditions that allow that violence to go on without any meaningful inhibition. So to be specific, we've seen in some of our nation's cities in America, like Washington, D.C. and New York City, something, again, it's an American term, but it's known as jury nullification. This is when a person is obviously guilty of a crime, but the juror, because they're ideologically sympathetic to the perpetrator, will not sentence them to the crime for which they've obviously committed. We've seen in the United States, again and again, individuals who are part of left-wing organizations who've committed assaults against ICE officers or federal law enforcement who've been brought to court where clear evidence has been presented against them, that the jury has refused to convict for purely political reasons. When you've reached that point, it demonstrates how deeply the cancer has begun to infest your society, where people have created an internal rationalization structure to justify unsanctioned violence against the state and state actors to achieve a political end. We have to use every lawful and legitimate tool that we have to demonstrate that justice will be served and delivered, and to prove that these kinds of tactics and techniques will ultimately fail. If the leftist learns and observes that their violence and criminal activity helps and ultimately succeeds in achieving their desired political end, they will be endlessly emboldened. Here in the United States, we've seen a growing and deeply alarming increase in attempted assassinations against public figures. Most notably, of course, the multiple assassination attempts against President Trump, the successful assassination attempt against Charlie Kirk, many others. This is a fatal cancer to civilization. And the greatest risk that we have is that our institutions have grown too soft and too cowardly to be able to defend themselves against a mortal threat. If your civilization is your home, you must defend it with the same passion and force as if an enemy intruder is inside your own house where your family lives. That is the level of dedication and urgency that is required. And the greatest threat is that even though there are far more of us, there are far more people who believe in order and civilization and liberty and the rule of law, is that if we are softer than those who seek to end us, then the smaller but more radical minority will succeed. It is easy to dismiss what I'm saying and to say, surely it cannot be that bad, it cannot be that dire. But again, I point to the examples in our own country where, for example, our Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which has been duly statutory authorized to carry out routine enforcement of immigration law, has been subjected to an over 8,000% increase in violent assaults. These are not one-off episodes. This is repeat, systemic, organized, funded insurrection and armed resistance against the federal government. There was a sniper from a sniper's nest who, using an assault rifle, tried to shoot ICE officers in Dallas, Texas. These are the episodes that we're talking about, where we have had repeated, direct, violent attacks on federal law enforcement in order to veto the ballot box with violence. And the leftist justifies this violence to himself by saying that they alone are the arbiters of what is right or wrong. Not the law, not history, not civilization, not public opinion, certainly not God. The leftist assumes for himself judge, jury, executioner. But let's not pretend for a moment that these radical leftists, these terrorists, are operating from a place of sincere political conviction. Sure, there are plenty of useful idiots that they use who may believe these discredited ideologies. The leftist is fundamentally motivated by envy, by hatred, by jealousy. The leftist looks at what is beautiful and what is good and what is natural and is filled with envy and hatred. The leftist looks at a perfect family with the perfect life and a perfect job and perfect kids that goes to church every Sunday and is filled with a feeling of inadequacy and jealousy, and they covet, and they turn those emotions ultimately into a desire to subjugate, to oppress, and to inflict pain and suffering. It's not a coincidence that when you look at these violent Antifa demonstrations, you see any photograph of those who were assembled. To be blunt, not one of the people that is demonstrating looks like a normal person. Not one looks normal. They're all deformed in some way in their appearance, in their dress, in their mannerism. Why is that? Why? You look at two photographs and you see a normal American street, you see an Antifa protest. Why did the people that are violently demonstrating, why is there not one normal looking person among them? Every one of them, through the course of their life and their decisions, has scarred their body and their appearance in many different ways, to the point in which their outer appearance becomes a manifestation of their inner hatred. Trust your instincts. To all people and across all civilizations, you know what normal is. You know what beautiful is. You know what good is. You know that families are right. You know that children are precious and beautiful and must be protected. You know that the criminal and the junkie and the predator is a threat to normal, healthy living. This is so much deeper than issues about taxation and regulation, although they're incredibly important. It's about normal, healthy, ordered living. And the violent leftists, for these deep-seated reasons, going back to the earliest wisdom taught to us in the Bible about coveting. And I'm not talking about rich versus poor. I'm talking about a much deeper kind of coveting. Coveting people who are morally superior, who are superior in the simple, truthful way they live their lives. People that they look at who are happy and ordered and peaceful and contributing to their communities. That burns an ember in them, and that's how you end up with the horrors we've seen throughout history, where good families are dragged out into the street and executed. And you might say, again, you're describing a future that seems impossible to conceive of. When it comes to preventing these horrors, it is the burden and the duty of good people of all walks of life to understand that you will always be accused of raising the alarm too loudly. If you wait until the point where the worst outcome is so obvious that no one can deny it, you've already lost the battle. That's the fundamental point. If you say, I will not raise this alarm until the threat is so present and so clear and so obvious and so imminent that none can deny it, it's already too late. It's already too late. I would rather prevent a threat from occurring and be accused for the rest of my life of having falsely raised the alarm, knowing in myself that I was right, than for fear of being judged, having waited too long until the point of no return has been crossed. The good news is that we are far away from the point of no return. So all of us should organize together and work together for the good and the benefit of all the people in our societies, of all walks of life, of all persuasions, to deliver for them what they are justly entitled to, which is to live with safety, with fundamental human dignity, and with the ability to live in peace and harmony with their families and neighbors. Thank you all, and God bless.
And tricking you into being against your own people is a wild comment. Are you serious? My people are not like Antifa or like these crazy terrorist types or like the psychopaths that threaten Andy No. I just like, this is making me think of Andy No because he's like been documenting this stuff for a while and he was attacked, but he posted today like one of these crazy anarchist trans guys. He just shared basically that he had created like a puppet of him and was doing like witchcraft against him. Like these people are very wicked and twisted. And yeah, it's true. You can just look at them and see. And I speaking as somebody who was like involved, like I would say involved, but somebody who was captured by leftist thinking, like I was very twisted and evil. And envy and jealousy and covetousness did have a large part to play in it. And it wasn't until I actually addressed those sins that I came out of that stupor, because like it has so much to do with why people get into these politics in the first place. Somebody else being like successful, productive, wealthy has nothing to do with me at all. I mean, yeah, and they've made it so horrible. Like this country is getting worse and worse to live in. And it is because of criminals. It's because of these crazy people who have these psychotic politics who just keep pushing this crap. Like, God, yesterday, Jamie and I went to the grocery store, and I hadn't been in like maybe a couple of weeks. And every time I go in there, it's like more and more militarized, more and more locked down. And it's not because of no reason. It's because these liberal policies that have been enacted have made it so easy for criminals to steal. And, you know, when you steal from a business, it's not just a corporation. I mean, this affects the jobs of the people that work there, their safety. Like, and crime goes hand in hand with other crimes. Like if somebody's willing to steal, they're willing to hurt people oftentimes to get what they want. It all makes sense. Shout out to Stephen Miller. Great speech, Stephen Miller. White excellence or white adjacent excellence, depending on how you look at it. You love this speech? Yeah, I appreciate it too. I'm sick of these people. They think they can just do whatever they want. They think that you know, law and order and decency don't apply, and it's just no way to have a society. They don't even like society. They want it to be destroyed. They say it openly. They want everything good to be destroyed. Yeah. Eventually, yeah, you get worn down into it. That is true. Don't blame others for the road you on. That is true. Oh, that's a nice story. Yeah, you had mentioned that about the Amish guy who. Well, if it's solar powered, then maybe they're Mennonites. But whatever. I don't know. All of us should organize against the organizers. I don't even want to get involved. Like, I mean, you saw me at the Jesus March this past weekend, or last weekend. I go around the corner and some crazy leftist is attacking a woman, and I'm getting like people shoved into me. Like, it's ugh. And they go after people hard here too. That woman that was shoved, like a few weeks ago, she was filming at City Hall, some stuff that was going on there, and her the next day, like some members of, I assume, Antifa, they totally trashed her car. They like turned it into a hazardous waste zone. It was filled with liquid feces and just like totally trashed. And then they did it to Tommy again, also recently too. Like he had to move out of the city, move him and his wife out of the city and their dog. They were sleeping in bed, and like in the middle of the night, these people broke their window and like sprayed bear mace on them. Well, I mean, Tommy got out of bed and really quickly, but his wife got bear mace. She's never been maced before. She's not even involved in any of it. Like she doesn't do any of it. And she had to go through that, and his dog, and it's just violating their home. And where he was living before was constantly being attacked, and like his vehicle's been like targeted multiple times. Like these people, like you want to organize against them, okay, but like they're not effing around. This is mild compared to what they do to some people. I mean, yeah, the sun finally came out. It's been hiding most of the day, peeking out for like a moment and then going back in. The left wants me dead. Ah. Let's see. I'm catching up with the
Look
chat.
at my funny comment.
You made a funny comment, babe?
Yeah.
You're going to go to karaoke?
Skip was like, Terri,
Oh, they're doing karaoke tonight? Ow, ow.
Oh, that's your foot.
Yeah, ow.
Sorry.
Ow. Yeah.
Fun.
I wish I did not have to go to bed soon and I could join you. But have fun. Terri's journey has been amazing. Thank you. You think so, babe? Probably shouldn't dox. What if Antifa's watching right now? My viewer count says I have 70 people watching, but I don't know. On YouTube, I don't think it's that many. And I'm only streaming on YouTube and X. Nobody from X has said hi. If you're on X watching, say hi, guys. College folks are always ripe for fringe politics. Yeah. Why am I not? Well, I don't know, babe. I usually only pick 2 at a time. I don't like to stream on Facebook too much, though, too, because it's like, I don't know. Well, we're streaming where we're streaming tonight, and,
Damn it.
It is what it is, babe. People make choices in life. Some of us make better choices. Wow. Your religion, my religion. Why are you telling me about my religion if you're not like interested in it? Judging the outside, but the inside. What do you mean?
So he said you should get a stun gun to be safe, and I said I identify as Terri Stun gun.
Well, I'll get to the comment, babe. I'll get to it. Sorry, I'm just catching up here. I mean, if you're talking about where I was talking about how evil and twisted, like some of these crazy leftists and protesters you see are, like, I mean, a lot of people wear how they feel on their face, on their sleeves. And I guess you just need eyes to see. It's not, you can see what's going on inside people a lot of the time if you are actually observing them properly. I don't know. I can't wait to get the review of the Portland review. The Portland review, what Portland was like. One day I hope we can watch Terry's slut walk video. I should have recorded back during the slut walk days because I protested slut walk. I did not agree with slut walk because I was a radical feminist. It was like, how dare you call women sluts? It's not okay. Women are not sluts. No woman is a slut. I did actually make a bunch of like photocopied.
Sluts that walk in this.
Hey, babe. I made a bunch of like photocopied flyers that said no woman is a slut and was like handing those out and like pasting them over like the town during the slut walk because I was like horrified. I do get why they called it a slut walk because they were responding to that like police officer in Toronto where it all began who was like, if you don't want to get raped, don't dress like a slut. But yeah, I definitely did not like the slut walk. I thought it really was bad for women. So
You can say that and not mean they're to blame.
you could say that and mean they're not to blame.
Yeah, you could like say, hey, women don't dress slutty.
Yeah, but women don't want to hear that. Women don't want to hear that.
I would say that too. I think that about women, but then not say that.
Yeah, but if you go into like a liberal college and say that to a bunch of like young 20-something, maybe not even angry girls that are all rebellious, they're gonna get pissed and like
show me your tits. If you're not a slut, what would they do?
They probably show them to you. I don't know.
See? Why?
What? A woman yesterday told me that you should be okay with people breaking into your car if you leave it downtown overnight. Fuck. See, that's the, pardon my language, that lady is part of the problem. We have these like crazy people that say shit like this. Like,
Terry, don't say that.
no, I'm going to say it. I'm going to cuss. That is effing insane. That is an effing insane thing to say. Damn it, like, this used to be a nice place to live. I don't want to say it was never without crime. It's like, that's not the case, but like, it used to be like the streets were patrolled. It used to be that criminals were afraid. Make criminals afraid again. You know that like slogan that's like make racists afraid again? Make criminals afraid again.
Yeah.
Or like make liberals wake up to like how ridiculous they're being. Why can't somebody park their car? You should be able to park your car and expect that your neighbors aren't going to mess with it. It's crazy.
Make woke people actually wake up. Wake up woke the woke.
Do you think we're living in Crowley's timeline? Oh.
Ooh.
Judge.
Sure.
What? Hating other people. Who have I hated?
Isn't that Barbara Bush's son?
Who have I hated?
Aleister Crowley. I mean,
Oh, babe.
She,
That's just a myth.
baby, she has the same jawline as him.
Oh,
Pull it up.
Barbara Bush might have been a man, but that's another video for another day.
Crowley's clone.
She's probably Aleister Crowley, never died, just like, you know,
Or she's a clone.
became a tranny and, you know, and then eventually First Lady. What the? Like, it was even like, this is an insane thing too, because these people who are committing crime, people who are stealing, people who are trying to impede law and order are the hateful ones. But then if you like say anything about it and notice that they don't look so good, like they look like they're crazy, they look like they're not well, then you're accused of hating. It's insane. It is not humane to leave them to rot on the street and terrorize tax-paying citizens. No, it's not humane, is it? But it's all like, you know, it feeds the machine, right? And like I said, like the homeless industrial complex is a big moneymaker in this community. So they have a lot of sway with the local government. So if they can keep these people that they don't serve here, they have a justification to keep their NGOs going and getting all that government money. And so the cycle continues. And then they also, I mean, they bus people here too. Like, or people come here because they can do drugs without like getting arrested. So they can just do drugs no matter what it is. And nothing's going to happen to them. That's not humane either. Just letting people rot on the streets addicted to drugs. It's crazy. Man, it's depressing.
Apparently the drugs are cheap now.
The drugs, yeah, are very cheap.
You just 10 cans. They give you double for cans here that they do in California. You get the whole dime. And
Yeah,
apparently 10 cans will buy you a hit of fentanyl. It's only $1.
Yeah. Wow. Really?
10 cans, you're good.
10 cans? You could find 10 aluminum cans or glass bottles a day. Go to the recycling, get your hit of fentanyl, and then, you know, then you're done. Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm behind in the chat. I'm probably going to have to wrap it up soon, too. It's almost 8 o'clock, guys. So it's a liberal. You got dude. Dude, you are running a TERF Tradwife channel. What do you mean I don't want to get involved? A TERF Tradwife channel. I'm not a radical feminist anymore. And I'm not a trad wife. I'm just a wife. A trad wife. I wish I was a trad wife. JB, help. I don't want to go to work tomorrow, JB. Please. Oh, it's the best trad. I hate y'all. I wish I was making videos about making biscuits. Yeah, that'd be nice. Make videos about like how to cook or mend things or like what I crocheted. Yeah, it's true. That is true. I mean, not all, but most. And they need to be reformed. And oftentimes it takes punishment. Like I told this story a while back. I'll tell it again, but I had a friend who was like a shoplifter. This was like 20 plus years ago. She was arrested multiple times for shoplifting before she actually was broken of the habit. Like it took her facing actual consequences, getting banned from multiple stores, not, you know, actually having her life disrupted, fines and like community service, and that it took all of that before she, you know, stopped shoplifting. a lot of the times, like unless like the Holy Spirit intervenes and changes someone, a lot of the time it takes people facing consequences for them to change their behavior and to do right. I mean, it's discipline. If people can't discipline themselves, like, it has to come from outward. And sometimes that's society being like, no, you're not going to do this. You're not going to steal. You're not going to like just do meth in front of the grocery store entrance. Yeah, I think they're right about quite a bit a lot of the time. I mean, maybe for the wrong reasons. I don't believe that patriarchy is bad anymore. So that's like, I guess, my perspective. I think patriarchy is a good thing. I think we need more of it. I think the lack of it is the problem. So I guess that's where I've kind of changed. There was plenty of nutrition in Terry's Radfem days. You think so? I was always on a quest for truth, but I was twisted and wrong about a lot of things as well, and listening to the devil. I can't picture Terry being a feminazi. Thanks. I have pictures if you want to. Oh, a gender clinic. Oh, okay. So she's just an NPC then. Yeah, they do. There was something I saw recently. I think Belly Ray shared it. I don't know. I don't want to get into it because I have been going for 2 hours, and I do want to wrap this up after I catch up with the chat, and give my closing notes. But yeah, the local police are basically like, you're on your own. Why did we defund the police? We defunded the police. Crime's out of control. It doesn't feel safe. Like, I don't talk about it a lot, but I don't feel comfortable a lot of the times, especially like early in the day, going out without Jamie there. Like, why can't I, as a lady, go down a few blocks and feel safe? Oh, because like people are smoking meth and God knows whatever else on the sidewalks and setting fires and sometimes holding like weird weapons. Like, it's... Terry would just make fun of Gail Dines and the army of libtard third wave feminists, and it was so funny. Gail Dines! She's a trip, man. Are you talking about that video I did where I like was watching the slut walk debate with doing my commentary over it? I remember like someone said to me, they were like, you said Gail Dines looked like a chipmunk. And I was like, what's wrong with that? Chipmunks are cute. Like, I didn't mean anything malicious by it. Gail Dines is a trip though, because she's watched so much porn. For somebody who's anti-porn, she has watched so much of it that her like mind is very pornified, and she'll just say things that it's just like, dang. And she has that little English accent too. It's a trip. The way you make criminals afraid again is giving them something to be afraid of. Yeah, I'll give them some of this. My disapproval. You think base liberal blocked you? Dang. Where should you get ice cream? Thinking. Well, it's like, do you want ice cream right now, or do you just want to get ice cream while you're in town? Because let's see, there's that frozen yogurt place on Park between Taylor and Salmon Street. They're open till 10 something, I think. And you can go there and get, you know, different flavors of frozen yogurt, and they have all the toppings and stuff. There's also an ice cream place. I don't know about the Ben and Jerry's that's near the Pioneer Square. I don't know if they're still open. A lot of stuff closes super early in Portland, so it's hard sometimes to get what you want. There is that big convenience store like across from the Cheerful Tortoise. They probably have some good ice cream. Yeah, I don't know what else to now. Or you know what? You know what I recommend? If you go to a convenience store, like a Plaid Pantry, or even like there's that one around the corner from your place, or the one up by the Cheerful, there's these ice cream sandwiches that are made locally. Who makes them? Dang it, I can't remember. Ruby Jewels. The Ruby Jewels ice cream sandwiches are amazing. Like you can get them at the little, like at most convenience stores, and you buy them individually. They're like probably like $4 or $5, but like they're amazing. The ice cream is so good, and it's like an ice cream sandwich between like two amazing cookies. My favorite one is like the mint chocolate one because it has these like really dense brownie like chocolate cookies, and then the like cool mint ice cream that's really refreshing. I also like the lavender lemon one. They're like, it's lavender flavored ice cream sandwiched between these two really citrusy lemon cookies. So that's an option if you want ice cream right now. If you wait till tomorrow, there's all kinds of more options. Anyway, that's what I suggest. Sorry, this is the comment from Dystopia Deep Dives about ice cream. Barbara had a baby in a jar too. Ew, what's up, Gregatron? Shout out to the great Gregatron. Oh yeah, Misa. I don't know. I do not know. It's funny though. It's funny though to say. Oh my God. Okay. I am so behind. I know. This is a wife that likes hot dogs. Especially like the fancy all beef Franks. Get those good hot dogs. It's got to be an all beef Frank. I don't like just any hot dog. What? I do a bunch of trad wife stuff on cam. Like what? Crochet? Because I was crocheting back when I was a radical feminist too. I didn't really do it on cam, but I didn't stream back then. I wish I did start streaming earlier. I don't know why I didn't. I had the capability. Imagine if I'd started streaming earlier. Like what? I crochet. What else do I do on cam? That, like, I don't cook or clean on cam. And just ask Jamie. I don't do that much either. Although I wish I could cook a bit more. It's been tough. Yeah, that's true. It is what it is. Yeah. You can't stop the devil in you. You need to overcome it, Chu. That's true. Hey. Music, nice. It's like people who drink and drive. Yeah, that's a scary one. All right, guys, help me keep getting caught up. Yeah, I can't take melatonin. It doesn't react well with my system. Yeah, and then they're they don't stop, or they hurt someone. You know, that's even worse. You know, they could hurt somebody. A whole powwow of hobos were running a yellow torch in front of the only entrance to Safeway. I swear to God, it's like a war zone. They just hang out there and like, what the F? Like, why aren't the police like doing something about this? Like, I mean, I know that the police have already been like, oh, we're not going to help you. But God, like, this is like, you're loitering in front of a business. Years ago, when I like protested outside of a Fry's, like I was on the sidewalk, quite a bit of ways from it, and the police were called on us, and the police were like, oh, you have to move over another 10 feet because they technically own this sidewalk. Like, because I held a sign up outside the damn business. And now, like, people can do this. Ugh. Dang, really? I'm sure LA is worse. LA is worse. They've got Skid Row there. Yeah, LA has to definitely be worse. I know. Hake's going to be 45. Oh, I should send a super chat with that like thing I wanted to do. The Kids in the Hall sketch, like send it to him. It's a big deal, 45. Move to Montana or North Dakota. Yeah, but it's like hella cold there. It snows all the time. Or at least y'all got winter and stuff. The temperature here is mild, which is part of why there are so many bumps, because like they're not going to freeze to death. Yeah, that's frightening. It's worse than New York City in the 70s. Gosh. Become a member. See behind the curtain. Portland shenanigans. Indeed. I haven't been filming any shenanigans lately because I just don't. Did y'all time her out? Did y'all time out base liberal? What the? Yeah. Dude, seriously though, that Ruby Jewel lemon lavender ice cream cookie is the stuff. It is this. Look at me. Let's see if I can find a picture of it. Ruby Jewel ice cream sandwiches. Yeah, see, it's a local business. So they look like this. Blackberry cobbler, oatmeal chocolate. Ooh, blackberry cobbler with oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. Brown sugar cookie with strawberry ice cream. Cold brew. I haven't tried that. These ones are pretty good too. The oatmeal choco chip butter scotch ones. It's like butterscotch ice cream with like butterscotch chocolate chip cookies. But I found that one kind of stuck in my teeth more. But yeah, this one right here. Access denied. If you then. Let's see if I can look at images. Lemon lavender, this one. Oh my gosh. This one's easier to eat because, like, the ones with the chocolate chips, they get stuck in your teeth and stuff. Amazing. Yeah, those are good. You'll text me tomorrow. Cool. Maybe we can meet up. Tomorrow is Friday, so maybe I'll have some stamina after work. And if not, I definitely want to get together Saturday. All right. You think we should do a live stream tomorrow on the streets? I will run security. I wonder what we could do. Oh, you're going to move to a different place tomorrow? Okay. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm just strolling through. Okay, let me stop sharing. Thanks for being here, all of you wonderful viewers. Shout out to Base Liberal, who got put in timeout. Hope you come back. I hope you enjoyed the content. It was interesting looking at the Enoch Powell stuff and the Ann Widdecombe stuff. Again, rest in peace to Ann Widdecombe. There's no place for political assassinations, I feel. Well, I mean, maybe there is, but just horrible, man. Horrible, horrible. And it's very shocking, disturbing, and terrible. And I hope that her killer is brought to justice very quickly and swiftly. And I think we should bring back public hanging for people like that. Anyway, take care, guys. Have a good night. I'll see you next time.